All right, so today we are here with Fabian Nicieza, co-creator of Deadpool.
I like how slowly and carefully he tried to pronounce it.
We're Latino, so
Yeah.
Didn't even just trip off the tongue or anything.
Right?
No.
Pronounced it by syllable.
Exactly. Fabian, how have you been, and how have you been dealing with the pandemic?
I have been very well, thank you, and I've been dealing with the pandemic in a very guilty fashion because I've had a really good year and I've had a lot of work on my plate, and since I work from home anyway, this is just, 9 to 5 for me. I know the world is falling apart, but I'm doing great, so
Awesome.
it's been all right. It's a struggle for all of us. My
Right.
wife goes to work at a school, my daughter goes to work. So I worry more about them than I do about me.
yeah.
Of course. Yeah.
We saw a couple days ago. Congratulations, you got announced for that XMen Legends Run. You're gonna get to retell some stories, some untold stories from the X-Men storyline. You're working with Chris Claremont. How did that come about?
The way most things seem to come about, you get an email or a phone call from an editor saying, "Would you like to?" And then you think about whether you would like to or not. I mean, that's kind of how it plays out. I don't pitch the companies anymore, so it's really whether they want me to do something or not. And I've said no to some things that I get offered. I don't get offered, truckloads of stuff.
Yeah.
Until the Juggernaut miniseries, I hadn't done anything for Marvel for a few years. I was in custom comics work. I've done a lot of custom comics work, but it's not the kind of thing that people see because it's for promotional purposes, for corporate purposes. So when they offered me the Juggernaut miniseries last year, when Jordan White, the editor, offered it to me, it was like last September. I said yes immediately because I love the character. I thought it'd be fun. I love the status quo that they had him set up in because of what was going on in the Hickman and X-Men stuff last summer. And Marvel seemed to be pretty satisfied and happy with the story and the sales. So they offered me the XMen Legends book. They offered me 3 issues in the first 12.
Yep.
And one is a 2-parter, one's a 1-parter. And I pitched them 2 or 3 different ideas for the 1-parter, but I only pitched them 1 idea for the 2-parter, and that was the Adam X story, because I didn't have that much of an interest in doing anything else. And I fully expected them to say no. And I also fully expected something to happen along the way where I would say, okay, we don't have to do it, I'm done. But it's gone incredibly smoothly. It's been tremendous fun. It's been really surreal and weird to write a story that I wanted to write over 25 years ago and get a chance to. I've enjoyed it a lot. The scripts are now in my rearview mirror because I'm done with them. They're being drawn by Brett Booth now. So I see the art as it comes in, and then when the whole issue's done, I'll do some script rewriting here and there before it gets lettered. So the promotion publicity part of it now is weird because for me the surreal stuff already happened, so having it all come out in some ways is almost anticlimactic to me because just writing it was the weird part. But I'm looking forward to it. The initial reception so far on social media to the press release and the interviews I've done has been really, really positive and fun. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's coming out in February 2021.
Yes, it
guys,
is.
make sure you pick that up.
Definitely. So Fabian, who are some of your favorite artists that you've worked with?
I hate answering that question because I always leave somebody out. And I've gotten, it's a 30-year career, so it's really hard to boil it down. I've been really lucky in that I've gotten to work with just about all of the best artists that have been drawing over the last 30 years. But for me, it's always when you have an opportunity to work on a long run of something that you build a relationship both personally and professionally with someone. So like working with Mark Bagley or Derek Robertson on New Warriors, that's extended amounts of time. That's 2 years with each of them. Working with Patrick Zerker on Thunderbolts and then Cable and Deadpool was a really long relationship. Working with Riley Brown now on Outrage, the digital comic we do, when we worked on Cable and Deadpool together, over 10 years ago. So it's really about finding the people that you can have good professional and personal working relationships with. all of these artists are ridiculously talented to be able to do what they do. So then it's just a matter of degree of how ridiculously talented they are. So, you know, that varies depending on the individual and even the story.
Right.
So Greg Capullo or Kevin McGuire, how do you choose one over the other? You know, Alan Davis,
Andy Cooper,
or Andy Kubert, how do you choose one over the other? So I don't. I've just been lucky to be able to work with a lot of really good artists.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Great answer.
So you mentioned that you're currently writing the Juggernaut series. Who's a character you would like to write about that you haven't?
If you mean mainstream characters, I've written pretty much every single character that Marvel or DC has, but if you're talking about as writing a run of a character, 12 issues or more, for Marvel it was always Captain America and Doctor Strange. I always wanted to write either of those. At DC, because a lot of the work I did at DC was very hit and run. I didn't have long runs on much of anything other than Tim Drake as Robin and Red Robin. But it's always Nightwing and Dick Grayson because he's my favorite character since I was 6 years old.
And all comic books?
Yeah, since I was 6 years old, because I came to this country and the Batman TV show was on, and there's Robin kicking ass, baby.
Yeah, that's right.
So I couldn't be Batman because I was only 6 years old, but I figured maybe I could be Robin, so he was automatically my favorite character. So I'd love to write a Nightwing run, Dick Grayson. I'd love to write a Hawkman run, but apparently they just had a really good one. So I haven't read most of it, but I heard it's really good. So maybe I don't want to write Hawkman for a while. So I'd love to do a Superman run, but I don't. You got to understand, I've been doing this for 30 years, guys. I don't think about it. I don't think about what I want to do. I'm doing what I got to do. You know, I do the work that I have in front of me. So it's not like I'm sitting here breaking down 12-issue storylines for Superman, because I'm not.
It's usually the company will come to you, like for Juggernaut. Marvel came to you and asked you if you wanted to write a Juggernaut series, correct?
Yeah. But look, you know, you can pitch. People pitch all the time, and a lot of people, successfully pitch. I kind of have aged out of that interest. I don't have an interest in pitching editors at Marvel or DC because I'd much rather be writing my own book than I would, coming up with story ideas for the characters they own.
Right.
And when they tell me they want me to do it and they're paying me to do it, then I'm more than happy to come up with storyline ideas for their characters. Yeah.
Awesome.
All right. So I've seen a couple of these comic books here that you're going to be signing, which is that XMen 25 cover, Fatal Attractions. That was probably one of the first comic books as a kid that I remember seeing in my cousin's house, and I thought it was one of the coolest things I've ever seen, having that I'm a big Gambit fan, so they had that holographic Gambit card on the front, and then you have that iconic cover of Magneto ripping out Wolverine's adamantium. How did that story come about?
Well, the person you should ask is also here today, and that's Peter David, because everyone's recollections vary slightly, but my recollection of it was during an X-Men retreat where we were talking about breaking down the Fatal Attraction story. Peter's confusion as to why Magneto has never just done this in order to stop this annoying little pain in the butt. So Peter just said, why doesn't he just rip his skeleton out? And everyone just sort of looked at each other and we asked, why not? And the minute you ask why not, then you start to creatively think about the ramifications of it happening. First, you got to make sure it can happen. Does it work? Even in comic book logic or science, then you think what happens after. And just those initial discussions excited all of us so much that we decided to do it. And Larry Hama, who may have been the one least or most resistant to the idea, because he was the one writing the monthly Wolverine book, I think he was.
Yeah, because I think that issue 25 tied in
right into Wolverine 25, And I would understand Larry being a little hesitant because he's the monthly Wolverine writer, and you're taking away his character's strongest visual feature. Larry mined about 7 years worth of story before they got the adamantium back into it. He wrote that book for several more years after that, and he found really interesting avenues of taking it. So sometimes these ideas come out, they could seem crazy, but then you start to realize, wait, we might be able to really generate some interesting stuff out of this. This could be a good 1-2 year arc. The Wolverine one ended up being 5, 6, 7
Yeah.
years, right?
Yeah.
So you never know where it's going to take you, but once you see that there are places you can go, that's when you start to get your creative juices, rolling. You start to think about the possibility and the potential. I didn't, because I was writing X-Men. It was a group book.
Right.
Larry's the one who had to worry about that a lot more than me.
Yeah.
Even
He has to deal with the aftermath of it.
yeah, he's got to deal. Yeah, he's got to deal with the aftermath. I just got the benefit from the big shot of the gloop getting ripped out of his body.
Right,
Exactly. Do you want to ask about the?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
So, sticking on the topic of X-Men, you've written, well, my favorite character I already mentioned is Gambit. My brother's a big Gambit fan as well. You've written Gambit in the externals. I see a couple of the Volume 2 Gambit issues out here that you're signing. And of course, he was in major storylines when you wrote X-Men in the 90s. What intrigues you about the character that you've written all, the solo series, the Gambit and the externals?
What I like most about the character, it often takes place outside of the X-Men. I like him a lot more outside of the X-Men than I like him in the
I
X-Men.
agree.
I think that Chris and then especially Howard Mackie really developed a very interesting backstory and status quo for him that I feel is actually more interesting than his story in X-Men.
I agree.
So
Same.
when I got the offer to write the Gambit book, that was another call. I walk out of the offices of Acclaim after resigning as president of the company on a Friday, and on a Monday, Mark Powers, the editor, calls and offers me Gambit. And I said yes because I wanted to keep working.
Yeah,
I
of
just
course,
left my job with zero knowledge of what I was going to do next. So I just wanted to keep working, so I said yes. And I just really enjoyed exploring the character's life in New Orleans as a thief, his family history, the guild history. I think I haven't read much that has been done with the character since then.
Yeah.
I know that there was just recently a few series that have
Rogue
been
and
done
Gambit
with him. I
miniseries.
haven't read any of them. I will eventually because I have them on my digital queue.
Yeah.
But I haven't yet, so I don't know how much I would or wouldn't enjoy those. When I was writing it, I just really liked portraying a character who has very noble ambitions and even noble intuitions, but he's been born and raised in a world of gray,
Right.
and he's been taught and trained to find the easy way out, to scam, to cheat, to steal,
Exactly.
to lie, and inherently that's not who he would want to be.
Right.
So it's a nature versus nurture thing with him, which I really like exploring, and you get more out of that when you're dealing with him and the guilds and his family.
Yeah, no, for
Definitely.
sure. One of my prized possessions is definitely a page from Lee Weeks on that Gambit solo series. That's
Oh, the first miniseries? Oh, cool.
I own
That's
I own
great.
a page from issue number 3. So yeah, that's one of my prized possessions.
That is a great one.
Any Lee page is usually great, but he did a super job on that.
Oh, he did.
series.
When I think of Gambit, I think of the way that Lee Weeks drew him. I know Jim Lee co-created the character, but I just think of Lee Weeks when the way he drew Gambit. That's me.
Yeah, I hear you. It's funny. I've worked with many artists drawing him, and I think of Steve Scrose
Yep.
doing him.
Yeah,
Because,
him too. He's a
that
great
first
one.
year for me, he really defined a visual style and look that I thought worked really, really well for the character.
Thank you for watching part 1 of our video with CGC and Fabian Nicieza. We're going to be posting part 2 shortly.
So please make sure to like and subscribe, guys. Thanks.